All right, we're back on the job. Got the trailer up on the jack stands. You can see it on the rear corners, up here in the front. That's got the weight of the trailer and the axle all hanging on there. As we sight down it, you can see it's got a little bit of a camber to it. Working all this weight pulls it back level, and that's all because of us welding underneath. All those underneath welds, it bends the metal when it cools. Got the axle in place. Nothing's tightened up yet. There's some sequences you want to go through. The springs are just sitting here. The bolts are loose. The U-bolts for the axle are just sitting loose. The axle itself sits on a little pin right there in the center of the spring. You can see that. You got to make sure that's in its place. Same on both sides. That centers your axle. And your plate's got a hole in the bottom. When you tighten these up, make sure it fits into that little notch on the bottom. And that's all there is to bolting the axle in place. That's no big deal, obviously. So what we'll do at this point, we'll tighten all the spring U-bolts up, get that tightened up. Then we'll come back and tighten all our shackle bolts, front and back. Now on these, you tighten them up. And then you want to back them off a turn. And the reason you want to back them off, you don't want the suspension locked up. You want it to be able to pivot and work and do what it needs to do. So they have dimpled nuts. In this case, I'm using Nylox, but you got to have that just one turn loose so that suspension can work freely. After we do that, then we're going to go ahead and put our brakes on, our drums, our bearings. The brakes is an important thing. I wasn't able to get an axle with the brakes and everything on it. So I got my axle blank, my brakes, got my hubs. We'll be putting all that on. There's no left or right to the axle. And so you can put that in any rotation you want. But most axles come with the wire for the brakes already in it, especially these larger ones. And if that's the case, like in mine, you want the wire to come out to the rear of the trailer. And the reason for that, these brakes are left and right. And they come with a little sticker in there and they tell you, hey, this is right hand brake. The other one's left hand, obviously. But if that sticker's not there and you say, hey, I don't know, how do I know now? Well, when you put the brake on to the proper side of the trailer, the wire will always come out to the rear of the trailer. So here's my right side brake, and these just fit right on them holes. We'll tighten that on with the bolts on the inside, and the wires come out to the rear of the brake assembly. So now that's why I said your wire in the back, you want that to the rear. You wire those together. The wires are the same color. There's no hot and ground. It's irrelevant which one you put to which. It's going to work. It's DC voltage. Okay, so we're just going to tighten all that stuff up. You don't need to watch me tighten them bolts. You know what to do there. And then we're going to put the brakes on there. We're going to put the hubs and the bearings in place. Maybe we'll do something with that. And I want to get the tires on there so I can get the proper spacing for the fenders. I'm not sure yet. This trailer I've been changing up as I go. We did the rat tongue. It's just a nice touch. It wasn't in my original drawing, but I wanted to do that. So we did it. The fenders, I got to put tires on there, make sure I got clearance for them. And depending on the spacing out from the trailer, I still might go with a lower rail and cut it into the fender so it all works out, or I might get a higher rail. I don't know. That's the beauty of doing a trailer on your own. You can change it up a little as you go and work it out. So, all right. Thanks for following up. We'll be back. So we'll get those bolted on left and right, and then we're not going to wire them up now. We'll do that when we wire the trailer here at the end. We'll get that. We'll get the hubs on there, and then we'll just stick some tires on there loose and figure out what we're going to do with the fenders. Hello, it's Dawn. Okay, we're making progress on the utility trailer. I took a few days off. I was under the weather. Anyway. Here we go. We got the, as you know, it's turned back upright, tongue's in place. What we're doing now is we're getting the side rails up, and the front corners are welded in place. They're not going anywhere. and my side height turned out to be 16.5 inches. I put the one tire on here just so you could see. That'll give me proper fender clearance. So we got that. So the top rail's just snapped in place. We come back to the back here. The uprights are just snapped in place. Real important that you run a square on this. Keep this back one absolutely square, because when you got your tailgate on here, it needs to fold up to that. You can't have it where it doesn't line up. So that's all good. That's all I got to do now. I got to burn these on, burn this top rail. And then what we'll do is we'll fit in our pieces. I got some 1.5 inch stock down here. You can see it's all prepared. 1.5 inches is going to be the distance I have to space out for the fender to mount on and have the proper clearance and the fender covering the tire the way it's supposed to. Another thing we've done in advance here, you can see the lines on here. This isn't the center of the axle because the axle changes angle with the shackles being down lower. You can see I actually moved my mark. This is actual center of the tire, so we brought that line up right up to the top rail. And now when I put my fenders on, you can see they're marked already. Got the center line on them, top to bottom and over the top. So when I get them on, I'll just line my marks up and they'll be just right over the tire. I'll have, 1.5 inches forward and 1.5 inches back, and won't look all goofy off center. Alright, so all we gotta do now is we're gonna burn these top rails on, and then we can start fitting our uprights up. They'll be every 2 feet. There'll be an upright, and then of course a couple where the fenders go here for the support. A couple more in the back. Boy, we're getting there. This thing's starting to look like a trailer now. And all this little stuff, it takes time, but we get after it, we get it done. So let's weld on these uprights, and we'll go from there. Okay, I'm going to keep welding for a while. You can see I welded all the inside here, but not the outside, because our front cap is going to meet up to that and go across. So we'll bevel that when we put it on. That way you got a weld you can weld into it. If you just weld over the top side of things, it won't be strong. You got to bevel it in so the weld's all the way in there. So that's on. I'm going to weld the other side. And then we'll make some more uprights. We'll go ahead and put our cross member in the front. We haven't done that yet. I don't know why I keep dragging my feet on that one. I'll get that done. And as we get a little more going here,